What's up, marketers, and welcome to another episode of the Growth Colony podcast. I'm Liza from Xgrowth to tell you that each episode we bring in B2B leaders to chat about how you can achieve those everyday wins in the marketing world. Whether you're new to the B2B game, working at a leadership level, or even just showing some interest, we know you'll love the episode. So grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode. I'm Shaheen Hoda with Xgrowth, and today I'm talking to John Croll, co-founder and CEO at Truescope, about market leaders versus challenger brands. John has spent time in both of those kind of organizations, and I'm really excited talking about what is the difference between those two, from go-to-market, from marketing, and so on and so forth. So really excited to dive into that. John, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. Let's paint a little bit of a picture for people who are listening. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience in a market leader, right? And what would that look like? What did that look like, so that we can then build on top of it from there?
Yeah, great. Yeah, look, I had the pleasure of running a company called Media Monitors for 20 years. Media Monitors became Isentia, and Media Monitors does what it says, right? You know, it gathers a whole lot of information from all types of different media and makes it relevant for clients. And the clients can be corporate and government clients. And we're predominantly in Australia. And when I started in that business, there were 22 competitors in the Australian marketplace. But over the years, it came down to 3, and we had about 70% market share. And I think the interesting thing for me was we never had to worry about the funnel. We're almost that if you needed to monitor the media, or you needed a campaign to see what your results were going to be from a communication strategy side, the natural position was to get in contact with Media Monitors. And that was across Australia. And so we didn't have to worry about the funnel, but we had to worry about that standard, all right? So you still had to have the best people on a sales point of view, because we had a strong belief that people buy people. So you had to have that trust piece straight away. And then obviously your product had to stand up to be the market leader and position yourself in that way all the time. So funnel wasn't a problem. Anytime we had a company event, the first guys to come in, grab a piece of cake, and then just run straight back to the desk were the inbound sales guys. Like, they just had so much coming to them all the time. And it was a great thing to do, right? But then for me, you had to keep that promise. And yeah, it was a beautiful position to be in. I probably didn't realize how privileged it was till I actually started in a challenger brand as well.
Well, I mean, let's dive into that. What are some of the differences? I mean, the funnel is very clearly one of the differences, but what are some of the differences that you see in, now that you're in a challenger brand? What is the perspective that you've got from being in that position?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, when you're market leader, you got scale, right? You can take on new products. You can build on those relationships that you've already got with clients. And then from a challenger point of view, I think the first part is you got to do your research really well and know that one part of the market, that vertical, that niche that you're going to be really good at, and start to build your name around that, because you can't be everything to everybody when you're first kicking off. So I think research was the first part that we had to be great at, where probably in the market leader, we didn't worry about it too much. You know, the stuff was coming, we could service everybody, and away we went. So research, super important. Next part was, what's that niche that we're going to be really good on, build our name around, and fulfill those first couple of clients that they became referral clients for us. Because probably the next part was, hey, you guys are pretty new. I'm not sure you can fulfill what I need. Win the trust piece for me. And so we're probably lucky on a challenger brand piece that a lot of us had worked in the industry. So we had some great relationships, but we still had to win that trust piece. So be really good at that first part of what you're going to do well, and get those referral clients. And then I think the third part was just, how do you build awareness when you're super new? So we had a little bit of that in some markets, as I said. People knew us, but we went to the US. We'd never been to the US before. And it was scary, right? You know, like Australia always comes down to 2 or 3 competitors, maybe 4 competitors at most. And it's pretty easy to research what they're good at and what people think about. go to the US, and there's just so many competitors, and there's people, you think you're going to be first to market with an idea, there's plenty of people with that idea already. So how are you going to differentiate yourself? So they would probably be the first up things that come top of mind for me when I think about, that lovely privileged position to now trying to really drive that awareness and getting those referral clients on right away.
I'm very keen to touch on the first point that you brought up, where you talked about segmentation and going niche and going very specific. How are you tackling that, or how did you tackle that with Truescope?
So I think first up, we did a whole lot of secret shopping, and we listened to clients in a big way about what they were, what was the areas at the moment, what problems were they having with current suppliers, and if we could solve that. And so that was going to be super important. So research was a big part of that. The second part was, what can we differentiate ourselves relatively quickly to get to market and actually start learning around the depth of the product that we had to have. And so probably in the US, the media intelligence space has about 5 different product offerings, and one's a media database. So you're tracking all the journalists and looking at what they write on and what they're interested in. We saw that there was a great product already in market in the States. So we stayed completely out of that area. We just went, that's a 2-year build. The guys, people from our research say they're already really happy with that. So let's stay away from that completely. And let's not try to be a fully integrated product. Let's just be really good down the verticals that we're going to go. And that saves us a lot of time getting to market, and also saved us a lot of heartache of actually putting a half-assed product into marketplace and seeing a churn rate that wasn't going to be good for us. So to answer that, research first, knowing what you're going to be really good at, and then you've got to beat the integrated model by being fantastic in your niche.
Yeah, got it. Let's go to the third point that you talked about. I'm also really keen to hear, how are you going about building that awareness from scratch with a challenger brand?
And I reckon we're still on that journey. I think the first thing is, you don't have to be famous to everybody. You just got to be famous in a B2B market when those potential clients' contracts are coming up for sale or up for retention, and how do you get in there? So to us, we've got to be famous at the right time to the right people. So we talk about that a lot. So first up, it's changing every couple of months, every quarter or so, of how you can get to be good.
Maybe we can touch on like what has worked for you so far.
Yeah.
And then what is on your radar going forward?
Yeah. I think absolute first up, referral clients, G2 reviews, and making sure those clients who are doing research, which we know in a B2B market, there's more than 50% of the people have done their research before they're even coming to talk to you. So let's make sure all those touch points where they're researching is that there's great reviews of us. We're looking that we're much bigger than we are, and those reviews talk about that trust point. And if we're taking an American market, Americans will only take that trust from other American clients. They don't see any advantage of, we've got a massive clients in Singapore, well-known global brands, but it doesn't matter. It's got to be the American lead for that brand. Otherwise, it doesn't count. So let's be fantastic around those reviews. So get those first couple of clients on, make sure we service the hell out of them, get some G2 reviews for them, make sure that research they're doing before they even come and talk to us is really good. Second point, we wanted to really support the market we're in. So we go to corporate comms, PR, government relations people. So we've been really present at industry events. And the hybrid working environment now is hard to get to people. Google ads are not as effective as they used to be. People don't pick up. Emails are clutter. So what we're doing is turning up to a lot of events and showing that we're super invested in their area and wanting to learn. And it doesn't work the first or second time, like if you're trying to sell, but if people keep seeing you turn up and see that you're interested, suddenly those conversations start and you start to become much more familiar with those clients. So events in America has been really good for us. And then the third part is use our own data to go to the areas that are super important. So we do real-time media information. So we know the issues that are running, and we know the players who are in that area, and we know the clients or the prospective clients who are getting favorable coverage, and we know the ones who maybe not getting as favorable coverage. So let's go deep down a vertical, learn as much as we can about that industry, and then use our own data to show them something different to what they're getting from their current supplier. So they start to think, geez, these Truescope guys got a really good handle on our industry, and they're starting to think about it in a different way. So we've got to break that mold, because America's competitive, and there's 30 guys out there trying to win that business. Our clients have probably spoken to 5 or 10 of them before. Nothing much has changed with the other suppliers that came. So they invested a whole lot of time in switching to another player. And we have to convince them that we're going to give them a frictionless environment to change. And we're going to have something different around the insights or the data that we supply to them. So it's not going to be a waste of their time.
Yeah, got it. I mean, that's really critical for people who are listening. Just for their reference, can you talk a little bit about how much of maybe Truescope's today's focus, how much of it is on the US and how much of it is maybe in the region, and kind of when did that kind of balance change? Was it always like that, or was it at one point it was all regional? If you could paint that picture, because I got a couple of questions on the back of that.
Yeah, so we had a go-to-market and product market fit in Singapore, and we did that mainly because of the volume of content. We can get relationships with the publishers and the broadcast channels, and the social media is not going to be massive. And we had really good people in Singapore that we'd worked with previously who wanted to come and join Truescope. So about 40% of our business is in the US and 60% is in the region. But we've only been in the States for really 16 months now, and we've got about 250 clients. We made a small acquisition because we just felt land and expand was going to be easier than going purely organic. And that comes with, you got to change the culture of that organization that you've purchased. But we spent a long time with the leadership of that company to make sure they were going to be a great fit for us and understood the speed that a startup or a scale-up wants to work at. And, we've been lucky enough to grow that business by 50% since we've acquired it, and brought some really good people, but built on top of the people that we've got. So that gives you a bit of a split of where we're at. We've got about 700 clients so the first clients were in 2021, and we've got about 700 clients on the SaaS platform now. And
wow.
Yeah, so
that growth rate.
Yeah, it's growing pretty quick.
That growth
yeah.
rate. Amazing. One of the channels that you mentioned was G2. Do you see this G2 having the same impact in our region as it does in the US?
Yeah.
What's the difference there?
Unfortunately, nowhere near as much impact here, and on both sides, right? So we've got, as you heard, a large percentage of our client base here, but they're not inclined to give you a G2 review because they just don't know it, don't see it. US clients do understand the importance of it, so they are inclined to give you a review. We've got about 50 reviews up there now, so that's probably a cohort that starts to get you into a trust environment. But to your question, if you talk to a client or a client who's just come on and said, what sort of work did you do to make sure that we're a good provider? They're nearly in Singapore and the region, they're going to go and talk to other people who are using us because it's quite a close community. All the corporate comms, PR people, government guys, they know each other more than going out there and going to anybody else or going to a G2 or a Captira or anybody else.
That's very interesting when you say that difference. And I don't know if you find this as well. I find that, maybe in the US, even that providing that testimonial or quote or whatever it is, it flows a lot smoother than it does here in our region, where it's maybe, I'm happy to have a conversation with somebody, but I'm not going to give a quote that could be public. Do you find that as well?
Totally agree. And I do think it's a cultural thing as well as so I remember doing business in Hong Kong, and I'd known a guy for a short period of time, and he said, well, I do know that person. I said, oh, could I have an introduction? And they said, why would I introduce you? I've only known you a couple of months. And so they see giving a review or a testimonial or even a case study very much as they do put a lot of store in that trust piece, that they're putting their name to it much more than just this is a transaction. Where I think in America, they're used to doing their own research on those areas, and they came to you for it. So they almost see it as part of helping the whole community understand if you're a good player or not. So, but I think it's super important as a startup as you're trying to get coverage. And we go down those verticals that I talked about, like industry verticals. And our client base, corporate comms, PR people, move quite regularly, maybe every 2 or 3 years. So you want to, and they tend to stay in the same industry, which is an interesting part of it. So if we can build really good trust in G2 and all these things, but also be super strong down an industry, we know they're going to move every couple of years. And if we're good enough, they're going to take us with them. And people are going to take a lot of store when they go to an industry event and they go, oh yeah, no, we're using those Truescope guys. That really helps. So as I said, we don't need to be famous to everybody. We just got to be famous to the people that we want to be famous to. So we spend a lot of time down those areas. Yeah.
John, what are some of the other differences? We've discussed a few, but what are some of the other differences that you've seen between, growing a company in the APAC region versus growing a company in the US?
So definitely competitive landscape. US, you're going to have a lot more people, a lot more competitors in market, and you're going to have a lot more innovation happening. We'd love, Australian companies are innovative and across the region they're innovative, but we tend to have people who are quite happy to spend quite large check sizes on their services. We've been attuned in markets like Singapore, Australia, that we pay for services. So you have to be good, and the markets are small, so you have to be very efficient, but we don't tend to be that competitive. So you go to the States and suddenly you got to be really competitive. Second part I think about America that we've found a lot is America's not America. It's almost like doing business in Asia, like the Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, they're all different, right? The East is very different to the West, which is very different to the North, which is very different to the South. So there's probably at minimum 6 different markets in the US, and some people would argue there's 50 different markets in the US. So I think know the markets that you're going to be strong in, test your product really well in a couple of those markets and make sure you're good product fit. People-wise, I found with founders that I've worked with as well as ourselves, we're not great selectors of American salespeople. We get entranced by American salespeople and probably marketing people who are much, much better at selling themselves first up than an Australian. Australians pretty, oh yeah, I'm pretty good. I think I can do a good job for you. American people are fantastic at selling themselves, how they're going to make a huge difference to your business, and they're going to be the best people. So we tend to take a couple of times to get that selection right, both marketing and salespeople. And then I think just the scale of what you need from a budget point of view to make a real difference in the States is any of the social media platforms to get meaningful traction against what you're going to have to spend in Australia against what you're going to have to spend in America is a lot different. And the traction just does take a little bit more time. So they would be my first up parts of it. But I think understanding those market differences is super important because the West is much more laid back. Probably take a meeting with you if you're a technology play. They're interested in your technology as well as your service. East is far more formal, sort of very much business orientated, difficult to get a meeting. The South is very different again, very nice. Let's go for coffee. It's right, pretty interesting. Yeah, lovely that you gave us a call. You have all these, it's all these differences, but the event side has helped us a lot in those markets, sort of understand those differences as well.
Very interesting. I guess I have one question that I was gonna talk about tactics that you either are using now or you're looking at leveraging in the near future. We've touched on a few, but is there anything else that comes to mind from tactically of ways that you're looking at growing either in the US or in the region, in the APAC region?
Yeah. So I think I'll stay with the US where we've been, and I do feel we've probably all got AI emails, marketing emails in the last couple of months now, where they've tried to customize, looked at your LinkedIn profile and looked at a couple other things and tried to blend that into something that you feel like has been customized, personalized for yourself. So we're really thinking hard about, if you think we've got information that happened a couple of minutes ago, it was broadcast a couple of minutes ago, posted, published a couple of minutes ago. So we're trying to break through that noise with AI and customization that shows a difference to the story. So this story may be gaining a lot of influence. It's actually already bridged across to social media and people are discussing it. So for us, how can we use a marketing tool to inform a prospective client of something that could be really interesting to them and break away and just get that time that they open their inbox and just think, okay, these Truescope guys understand my industry and have told me something that I didn't know. And actually, I've got a supplier at the moment hasn't told me that so far. So they're probably how we're thinking around, instead of it just looking like the normal, you can almost pick that AI email now. We've all got pretty attuned to it pretty quickly. How do we tell them something they didn't know and break through the noise of their current suppliers to go, this is going to make a difference to your day? So that would be the first thing that we're really working on. And then taking that from a B2B point of view, LinkedIn's unreal for us, right? Our people are moving jobs every couple of years. They are communicators, so they like being on LinkedIn, being able to give them industry reports. So we go down those deep verticals. We sort of sit there and think, what's an editor wanting their journalists to write on every day because it's interesting, because it will gain a readership, and what has a high touch point in social media. So people are interacting with that brand on a daily basis, so they're going to be conversing about that. They're the two things that we're looking down those industry verticals, because they're the teams that have large digital marketing teams and large PR teams that are going to be great for us to actually assist with the product that we have. So industry reports, giveaways down LinkedIn, going deep down an industry vertical and telling them something they don't know by the data is something that we see. So that may not be revolutionary, but it is super effective for what we're doing.
Do you want a chance to win personalised advice about your ABM strategy? Well, Xgrowth and Media Collateral are back again with the State of Account-Based Marketing Report for 2024. If you're in the APAC region, we'd love to hear your thoughts on ABM. And in return, we'll give you our ABM Essentials Pack for immediate download. Plus, we'll send you an exclusive hard copy and a digital pre-release copy of the report. Be a part of this awesome industry study and win not only a chance to chat with our Xgrowth team about your strategy, but also the opportunity to ask your questions in real time during our expert Q&A session when the report goes live. So what are you waiting for? Fill in the 3-minute survey today with the link in the pod description, and together we'll find out the state of account-based marketing in APAC for 2024.
John, I have some rapid fire questions I want to ask you before we wrap up. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Should we do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
What is one resource, it could be a book, a blog, a podcast, whatever it is, that you've come across in the past 3 to 6 months that has had a you were very impressed or had a big impact on you?
Okay. It may be just outside the 6 months, but I'm going to take that. But it is The Hard Things About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. I don't know if you've read it. It's a book.
I have. It's a great book.
Yeah, it's a great book. And, I wish I knew the chapter about, and I'm going to swear, but, if you got a shit sandwich, don't nibble.
I was literally gonna say that. Yeah. Don't nibble on shit or something like that. It is such a great quote.
I just remember you try to keep everybody happy and you just sort of let the bad news out slowly and you're the only one living with it. That to me, when you got bad news, let's get it out there, do it once, hurry up with it. But yeah. And look, I know these are supposed to be rapid fire, but I love that book because the Harvard Business Review tells you how great it's going to be if you put a great strategy together and you get all these people. And this book says you're not going to be a legend every day of your life. Things are going to go wrong and it goes wrong for everybody. So just get used to it. Take it on the chin. Do your best. And, I think Warren Buffett reads it at the start of every year to refocus himself about it.
Wow, does he?
Yeah.
Really?
So, that would be the book and the resource, and I probably think I wish I'd read it quite a few years earlier.
I love it. Okay. If you could give one advice to B2B marketers or salespeople, what would that be?
Yeah. So can I give two?
Yeah, you can give two.
Yeah. So we're probably one recurring theme all the way through. Know your niche, right? Know your market, your customer that you want to get to. Know it super well. That's the first thing. Research it. Don't ever try to be too broad. And the niche, some people think niche is small. In billion-dollar markets, niches are still pretty big. And then the second is solve the client's problem. We get so wrapped up in our marketing and our sales around our features and how clever our product is and how good we are. Client doesn't give a crap. They want you to solve their problem. So to me, it's solve the client's problem.
Love it. I love it. Are there any influencers or thought leaders in the sales and marketing space that you follow, John?
Yeah, I reckon Sasta is the best one. So Jason Lemkin there. And the thing I like about Jason Lemkin, he brings so many other great salespeople into that environment as well. It's down to earth. He talks about how good you got to be around your marketing, but he also talks about how much time you should spend on your marketing and your sales employees and who you hire. And so that would be get the email every day. I go to the site, I read the content, and I branch off into a whole lot of different areas as well. You're asking rapid questions. I'm giving you long answers, but hopefully that's
fine.
okay.
That's fine. Yeah. They're golden.
Yeah.
They're golden. So that's fine. Last one I got is, what is something that excites you about the B2B space?
Yeah, I think just that technology is making the services that we deliver in the B2B space so much more impressive, solving clients' problems, and super impressive that you can sell them something a year ago and now you've got 4 or 5 different iterations onto your product that makes that client super excited that they've come on the journey with you. So I think technology is just making our service so much better.
John, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. This was a great chat.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for, again, having me on.
Today's episode of Growth Colony was produced by Alexander Hipwell and Liza Maywald. It was edited by Dave Samito with additional editing by Liza Maywald and music arrangement by Alexander and Liza. Special thanks to Tina Wabe. We couldn't make the show without you. Growth Colony is hosted by Shaheen Hoda, Director of Growth at Xgrowth. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe and give us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Do you think you'd be a great guest or just keen for a chat? Send through an email at podcast@xgrowth.com.au. That's podcast@xgrowth.com.au. That's all for now. We'll catch you next week, right here on Growth Colony.